The ceiling fan rotated slowly, making a dull, creaking sound like a tired man groaning in his sleep. It did little to ease the oppressive heat that hung in the air like a wet blanket. The tiny one-bedroom apartment smelled faintly of kerosene, sweat, and old dreams. Chuka sat shirtless on the edge of their sagging mattress, his laptop warming his thighs as he stared blankly at the screen. The power had gone out again, mid-sentence, leaving the screen dim, the spinning wheel of death mocking him like life often did these days. He leaned back, resting his elbows on his knees, the beads of sweat on his forehead mixing with quiet frustration. He didn't have to check the time. He knew it was past noon, and he hadn't eaten. Again, he heard the sound of sandals shuffling on the tiled floor. Sandra? She emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a fluffy white towel, skin glistening, brows furrowed in habitual irritation. Her perfume floral and strong preceded her presence, a reminder that no matter how modest their lives had become, she still held on to elegance like a weapon. She paused at the sight of him, lips curling slightly in disdain. "You're still on that laptop," she said, not even trying to hide the accusation in her tone. Chuka exhaled softly without looking up. "Yeah, I'm almost done with the proposal. If the funding comes through." "If," she cut in, arms folded. "Everything with you is always if. If this proposal works. If that investor calls back. If the app gets downloads. Chuka, when will it stop?" He blinked slowly. "Sandra, I'm building something real. It takes time." "Time?" she scoffed. "We've been married for 3 years. That's 1,095 days of your time. And what do we have to show for it? A leaking roof? A generator that starts only when it wants to? No AC, no washing machine, no decent Karen. Don't even get me started on this so-called tech idea." She walked over to the standing mirror and wiped a smudge of lipstick off her face. Chuka watched her quietly. The same woman who once held his hands in church and promised to love him through thick and thin was now the judge, jury, and executioner of his dreams. But he couldn't really blame her not fully. Sandra had grown up in affluence. Her father, Chief Odukoya, was a name that commanded respect in real estate circles across Lagos. Sandra went to private schools, summered in London, wore imported perfume by age 13. When she fell in love with Chuka, it had been scandalous. A university romance that no one expected to last. Her mother had warned her, "He has nothing. Nothing but potential. You can't feed a baby with potential, Sandra." But Love was wild, rebellious, and blind. They got married in a quiet ceremony, mostly attended by Chuka's friends and a few of Sandra's cousins who dared to defy her father's order to stay away from that nonsense wedding. At first, they were happy in their tiny rented flat. Sandra cooked. Chuka did dishes. They watched movies under mosquito nets. He called her queen. She called him my tech king. But as months turned into years and nothing improved, the glitter started to fade. Romance bowed to resentment. Sandra stopped smiling. Chuka stopped cracking jokes. Now, even the little things felt like war. "You know," Sandra said, pulling on a sheer robe over her towel, "I saw my friend Jumoke yesterday. Her husband just got her a new car, a Lexus. They live in Lekki Phase 1 now. She's barely 30. Chuka stood, stretching, his frame lean and tired. "Good for her." "Good for her," Sandra mocked, turning sharply. "That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Sandra?" he asked, voice low. "That I'm a failure? That I should have stayed in that dead-end bank job? That I should have begged your father for a job in one of his companies?" Sandra walked closer, her tone sharp. "Anything would have been better than this humiliation." He took a deep breath. "I'm not just trying to get rich. I'm trying to build something that will outlive me, something that will impact lives." "And what about our lives?" she snapped. "What about me?" Silence fell between them like a slap. Sandra turned and walked toward the kitchen. A few moments later, the sound of a plate breaking echoed through the house. Chuka stared at the wall again. Once, that wall had held sticky notes and vision boards. Sandra helped him design them. They planned to travel the world together, to launch a tech empire, to show her parents they were wrong. Now, the wall was bare, like their dreams. The light came back on suddenly, blinking the bulb to life. The fan started spinning faster, but nothing changed. The room still felt heavy with something no electricity could fix. Regret. It rained that day, the kind of rain that didn't just fall but announced itself with thunder like rolling drums in the sky. Lagos rain had a way of turning an already difficult life into pure chaos. Streets flooded, generators drowned, and dreams got soaked like laundry forgotten outside. Chuka stood at the BRT terminal in Ikeja, drenched from head to toe. His umbrella had snapped in the wind 2 hours earlier. The blue folder containing his CV was now soggy and near useless. His shoe sunks polish squished with every step, water oozing from the sides. His shirt clung to his skin like shame. The job interview had been a disaster. A promising startup had invited him to discuss a project management position. But the moment they saw him shivering, soaked, and late, their body language changed. They barely let him sit before telling him, "We'll get back to you." They wouldn't. He already knew. Still, he trudged home, weaving through traffic, trying not to fall into one of the hidden gutters that Lagos was notorious for. It took nearly an hour to get back to Ajagunle. By the time he reached the gate of the compound, his arms ached, his eyes burned, and his soul felt like it was made of lead. The gate creaked as he pushed it open. Rain slapped against his face, and thunder growled above like a final warning from heaven. Then he saw it. 2 black duffel bags, his own, lined up neatly beside the door. At first, his brain refused to register it. He blinked, rubbed his eyes. Maybe it was someone else's, a neighbor, a joke, maybe. But then he saw the name on the tag, C. Okonkwo. His heart dropped. He opened the door to the apartment. The air inside was unnaturally still, too quiet. No sound of the television, no aroma from the kitchen, just silence and Sandra. She was sitting on the couch, arms folded across her chest, dressed in a peach lounge set, gold earrings dangling as if mocking the poverty in the room. Her eyes met his, cold and unreadable. "What is this?" Chuka asked, motioning toward the bags. His voice was barely above a whisper, not because he was afraid, but because something inside him had cracked. Sandra didn't blink. "You can't live here anymore." He stared at her for a long moment. "Why?" "Because I'm done pretending," she said flatly. "I'm done waiting for a miracle. I'm done believing in a man who doesn't believe in reality. You kicked me out because I'm poor? Number, I'm kicking you out because you're stagnant. Because every day with you feels like drowning slowly. Because your dreams have become my burden." Chuka dropped his soggy folder on the center table. Water spread underneath it like a stain. "So you're just giving up?" he asked quietly. "I should have given up years ago," she replied. "But I was foolish. I thought love was enough. I thought you would change." "I did change," Chuka said, his voice rising for the first time. "I gave up a secure bank job to chase something meaningful, something that could help thousands of people. You knew this." "Chuka, I married a man who had ambition, not a man who's now a charity case," Sandra snapped. "You don't even have money to fix a leaking tap, let alone raise a family." "I'm not a charity case," he said, teeth clenched. "I'm building something." She laughed bitterly. "Then go build it somewhere else." He stared at her, soaked and stunned, his heart breaking in real time. "Do you even remember why we got married?" he asked. Sandra stood up, picking up a throw pillow and hugging it to her chest like a shield. "Yes, I remember believing in something that never existed." "And what about love?" he whispered. "There's no love without dignity," she replied, "and I've lost mine living like this." The words hit like slaps. not because they were shouted, but because they were spoken so calmly, so decisively. Chuka walked into the bedroom quietly. His side of the wardrobe was already empty. Even his favorite hoodie was neatly folded on the bed. She had planned this, carefully, coldly. He walked back out, standing in the doorway. "No goodbyes?" he asked. Sandra looked at him for the last time, her eyes glistening but with pride, not tears. "Goodbye, Chuka, and good luck. You'll need it." He turned without a word, picked up his bags, and stepped out into the rain. Behind him, the door shut with a click that echoed louder than thunder. That was the last time he saw Sandra for a long, long time. That night, he didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because even his tears felt wasted. He walked the streets of Agunle, dragging his bags like a ghost. People passed him, umbrellas in hand, hurrying through the downpour. He was invisible. By 10 p.m., he arrived at his friend Uche's place in Iyana Ipaja. Uche didn't ask questions. He simply opened the door, looked at Chuka's soaked form, and said, "You can crash here. The mattress is thin, but it's better than the floor." Chuka dropped his bags, peeled off his wet shirt, and lay down on the foam in the corner of the room. The ceiling leaked. The walls had watermarks. The air smelled of damp clothes and cigarette smoke. But it was quiet. He stared at the ceiling, and somewhere between exhaustion and heartbreak, he made a silent vow. One day, she'll see me again, but not like this. Never again like this. The first night at Uche's place was the longest night of Chuka's life. The mattress was thin and uneven. Mosquitoes danced like tiny demons in the corners of the room, buzzing past his ears, refusing to let him sleep. The ceiling dripped with each droplet sounding like a mockery. Drip, drip, broke, broke. But the loudest noise wasn't from the rain or the insects, it was the silence inside him. He couldn't stop replaying it all in his head. The bags at the door, the look in Sandra's eyes, the final, quiet click of the door shutting behind him. By dawn, his mind had hardened. He had nothing left. Not a job, not a marriage, not a shred of dignity. But what he still had was something most people couldn't see. His idea, his dream, his reason to get up. The next morning, he rose early. No one asked him to. There was no alarm, just purpose. Laban, building from ashes. Chuka began taking on any work he could find. He washed cars for neighbors. He helped elderly people carry groceries. He worked shifts at a roadside bar in the evenings, cleaning tables and serving drinks. Every naira he earned went into feeding himself and buying time at a cyber cafe. Uche, ever supportive, gave him space. He never judged. He often said, "Guy, if you blow tomorrow, Nami go be your first shareholder, oh." At night, Chuka would return home exhausted, but he never let go of the fire burning inside. He stayed up watching tech lectures, reading books on startups and investments. He scribbled ideas in a battered notebook. He mapped out user interfaces on the back of old calendar sheets. The idea that kept him awake night after night was called Work Connecta Digital Platform to help blue-collar artisans, carpenters, electricians, tailors, mechanics connect with paying customers directly. No middlemen, no exploitation, just access. It wasn't just a business idea. It was a solution, one born from the chaos of Nigeria's informal job economy. But an idea meant nothing without execution and funding. In his second year of struggle, Chuka found a small tech community on Facebook. Through them, he learned about an upcoming startup pitch competition in Abuja. Prize? An initial angel investment of $10,000 from a foreign venture firm. To Chuka, that was like winning the lottery. He had no fancy presentation tools, no MacBook, just his idea, his voice, and borrowed courage. Uche sold his only working phone to buy Chuka a round-trip bus ticket to Abuja. "Just go and win," he said, grinning. The phone go come back in Rolls Royce. The trip to Abuja was 12 hours on rickety roads, squashed between traders and shouting children. He arrived hungry, tired, and smelling of road dust, but his suit rented from a friend was neatly pressed. He stepped onto the stage of the small conference hall, heart pounding. Other presenters had visual displays, graphs, team logos, and matching shirts. Chuka had only a white shirt, a shaky laptop, and a dream. He began. There are over 40 million artisans in Nigeria working in informal sectors, struggling to find customers. Customers, on the other hand, struggle to find reliable artisans they can trust. What if there was a bridge? A system? A digital handshake between the two? That's Work Connect. Silence. Then scattered applause, nods, raised eyebrows. After the session, a tall white man in a blue blazer approached him. He introduced himself as Simon Beckett, founder of a London-based tech fund for African startups. I don't usually get impressed by bare-bones pitches, Simon said, smiling. But your idea? It's real. It's needed. Let's talk. 3 weeks later, the investment deal was signed. Chuka received his first ever business funding, $10,000. To most, that was small money. To Chuka, it was like being given the world and a map to conquer it. He called Uche. Guy, Uche shouted over the phone. No, tell me, say them don wire mo. They wired it, Chuka whispered, overwhelmed. That night, they celebrated with nkwobi and malt drinks from a roadside joint. It wasn't champagne, but it tasted like victory. Chuka registered his company officially, Work Connect Global Limited. He hired 2 hungry developers from Unilag. He rented a small shared office in Yaba. He worked day and night like a possessed man. By the end of year 1, the app had 25,000 users. Year 2, 200,000. Investors started calling. Banks began offering partnerships. Artisans sent testimonies. People were earning more. Homes were being fixed. Lives were improving. But Chuka never told Sandra. Never sent her a message. Never gloated. His success was never about revenge. It was about becoming the man he had always believed he could be, even when the world and the woman he loved stopped believing. Chuka moved into a duplex in Lekki Phase 1. His closet had tailored suits.